I'm your host, Todd Rosales, and it is lovely to be back here. So we are back in studio. We're done with the Benzinga Cannabis Capital Conference. It's the last time for a while. I'm going to have to use that alliteration, but I hope you guys enjoyed all 21 episodes that we've done. Hopefully by now we've got the episodes that Aisha Alves hosted for us at Benzinga. Obviously better than the ones that I did. Gonna look very stupid if those don't come out before this, but guess what? If not, we've got 3 episodes hosted by Aisha Alves for your viewing pleasure. Of course, if you ever miss any of these episodes, you can check us out at youtube.com/elevate your grind. You want to check out all the great things going on with C Lab, it's joinclab.com. Third Thursday of every month is our evening networkers. Third Tuesday of every month is our morning networkers. We've got a lot of great stuff going on. That will be at joinclab.com. Okay. My guest today is someone I've known for a while in the industry. Probably met him in my second year in the industry. Um, Funny enough, kind of have a connection to him prior to that me and my friends would come home from college. There's always this place in downtown Fort Lauderdale that we'd go. Turns out that this gentleman was the reason for that place. So without any further ado, please welcome my friend, Mike Koner, the CEO of Blockticity and Automatic Slims. Mike, thanks for joining us, man.
What's up, Todd? Thanks for having me.
Of course, dude. It is a pleasure to have you. I think we've probably threatened to do this a couple of times, never actually got around to it till Derek reconnected us again. So happy that we're getting to do it. So, man, you have a very interesting story, very entrepreneurial spirit, and the type of person I like to have on the show. Your background starts all the way with Automatic Slims in Fort Lauderdale, and even prior to that, working with some notable Miami people in the hospitality industry.
Yeah, so I grew up in North Quincy in South Boston. I came down, I was about 21 years old and started a marketing company, throwing events, operated the first bottle service nightclub in Fort Lauderdale, probably in 1998, and then transitioned into promoting events, house music and hip hop events with some NFL athletes and with Stellar Concepts and Design. Von Dugan was one of the early guys there. And then one of my friends, Mikey Saladino, was building a business plan we were trying to go away from clubs because the clubs had the rules with the security guards and VIP ropes, and you can stand here and can't stand there. We wanted to kind of flip the model upside down. And so built a business plan for a rock and roll bar. And then Andy Costas, who is the designer in that project, was walking down the street in New York, and he saw the name Automatic Slims, and he's like, that's it. And then the design was basically the design elements were Googie architecture, which was this design period in American history when America was happy, when they were in the space race versus Russia going to the moon in the late 50s, early 60s. And they would take all their marketing dollars and make these amazing signs for their businesses and shrink them down. We would shrink them down and put those recognizable signs from American, like the sides of the highways, and we put them in the bar. And then the rules were, there were no rules because my partners were designers. So someone could come in and dance on the furniture. High heels would break the seats because they were dancing on the seat covers. We'd just make new ones on the weekend and then bring everybody back in. Launched Automatic Slims Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Hard Rock. Had a great run. Shut everything down in 2009. Then another group came in and ran Miami for a few more years. And I moved into technology, and I did a couple of tech startups. And then I've always kind of thought about Miss Slims and had it in my back pocket. And then when we started getting into Web3 and really understanding like these experiences in video games, I thought what a cool time to try to dust off the brand and then reignite it through like a digital version of Slims. And so that's what we've done in a video game called Decentraland, which is decentralized and on Mana blockchain. And we've been operating that facility since October of last year.
Very cool, man. I love how you're able to take your entire mix of experience and background and kind of blend it all into one now. Like, you're coming up through hospitality, seeing the opportunity there. I told you last night, one of the reasons that I love going to Slims is you guys played rock music. It was different. It was more people hanging out, bullshitting with each other. It wasn't that like show me dance club type atmosphere, and the atmospheres that I hated. Even if you got like a quote unquote like roped off area, you're still right up there with everybody else. There was just a thin rope there that gave you a little bit of breathing room. So one of my favorite places, you then pivoting into technology and now bringing that experiential background, pairing that with technology and looking at something like Web3, because I can tell you, and I think I've told you this before, I've been given and pitched on and talked about all these different Web3 projects, and a lot of them just don't make sense. I look at them and I'm like, I don't think people are going to do that. I don't think people are ready for that. And now, I know you've been in cannabis for a long time too. I know you know a lot of people. I know that you're also working with brands and activating them inside the metaverse. Obviously, this is something that my brand Heisman has done, and I think that's really a good use case for brands because you can't do anything outside your state, and sometimes even the stuff that you can do in your state is not the type of event that you want to throw. I don't want to say that the metaverse is the wild wild west, but at the end of the day, when it's a digital land, the rules are a lot more flexible.
Yeah, so if you want to talk about the metaverse as it relates to the cannabis and hemp industry, let's talk about some of the challenges. So one is 280 taxes are going to crush everybody. So it's really hard to have the marketing dollars. Every dollar counts with the way you market.
Yep.
Two is there are different marketing roles in different cities, counties, and states with how you can promote cannabis related content. So if we can go into an age gated environment that 71% of the people or more you can prove are of legal age, then brands can do more openly online activations to not just spread the cannabis or hemp SKUs that are available, but also the culture and what that brand emulates. And when you look at the bigger brands that came out of California that were involved with musical artists, those are the brands that are recognized around the world. And that's where, we understand that part. And the metaverse is an online video game. So we have access to followers of these brands all around the world. So when we do an activation in Decentraland, we get Web3 data and we get communication with people that not only show up, but comment and participate with the brands and then take a picture on Twitter because we drop them an NFT to thank them for participating and doing, part of that brand activation and getting part of that culture, taste of the culture and a part of the community.
It's funny. We had a conversation last night about how you and I are a little bit older, probably at top end of millennials into the next generation, and how this younger generation is just looking at going places in the metaverse, putting on an Oculus, going to Australia. And you and I said, hey, if I did that, it would make me want to go to Australia more. I've been thinking about that conversation. And one of the things that I think is a really cool use of technology is I still like going to events in person. If there's a band I want to see or a comedian or somebody I want to see, but if I'm going to that event, I want it to be a good experience. I'm going to get whatever VIP package it is so I don't have to wait in lines, and I'm going to sit close to the stage. And that's not always feasible for everything that you want to do. And there are some things that I probably would want to go to that if I'm not going to go ahead and invest the money to make it the best experience I can, would be cool to experience digitally. So I see that, for like an old fart like me, going to some kind of festival that I otherwise wouldn't experience by being able to experience it digitally.
Yeah, and so that's really where it gets interesting because with YouTube and with Instagram and with these kids at every concert with their cell phones out capturing the data, you're not going to be able to control the content. So if you can, in a curated way, share content around a live event experience and then give people virtually an area to activate it in an environment like a metaverse place where there's no cost to come in. You set up your account, you generate your own avatar, and now you can come in and interact with the people IRL in real life by visiting virtually from anywhere in the world at that same moment. You're going to see some of those crossovers of the energy of the crowd or some of the cool content. And that's how these brands that are trying to break out are going to transcend across 7 continents. And we're excited for them and watching them roll out that process.
That's really cool, man. So how do brands actually activate the metaverse? How are they attracting people to do this? What's the experience like? Because one of the things that obviously you can't do right now, you can't technically smoke weed in the metaverse because it's not real. It has to be real stuff. I mean, so I know like for the Heisman House thing, and I can give the example is we would do it for Monday Night Football, and we would show, some kind of football game on or some kind of sporting event on a screen in the Heisman House. It would kind of be like a stadium and it had different areas, and you had like your little avatar that could smoke. But like obviously in the real world, you were wearing a pair of goggles and maybe smoking real weed. So what are these brands doing to activate that it is getting them attention? Like what kind of activities are they? What kind of things?
Sure. So you were doing things, and that's why I love companies that are forward thinking. And so you were doing activations, around cannabis with the VR goggles. So Decentraland doesn't have the VR goggles yet because they're programmed to go on the Apple VRs, which are going to come out sometime in Q4 or beginning of Q1, which is very exciting. So you have to have people come into their laptop or their desktop to experience these 3D immersive.
I think it actually had both. You can do either one, but obviously it was better with the goggles.
Yeah, but you guys were there, so people were totally immersed when you've got the goggles on. That's a different experience than looking at 3D on your computer. So what we do is, because we come from a compliant background and my involvement with ACS Laboratory, and we want to do things under DEA regulations and state regulations, we only activate cannabis brands in the metaverse that have a physical redemption. So you can go into an experience with a branded event. You can look at 3D products of cannabis brands that you think are interesting and you might want to buy in the real world and consume in the real world. And if it's above 0.3% THC, then we're going to only allow you to buy those products if you live within the state that it was manufactured. So we use NFTs, what we call NFT as a service. We use NFTs to track products compliantly through the blockchain, and then you can buy the NFT. So you get a digital asset, which is the NFT, goes into your wallet, but then it unlocks a coupon for a real product, IRL, in the real world, and then we reverse engineer that product based on the regulations. So if you're talking about cannabis above 0.3% THC in the state of California, it's got to be tracked through metric, and when you unlock that coupon, you need to understand and know ahead of time, this is only going to work if you can verify your physical address and your age to a licensed delivery service that the DCC is tracking, and then that delivery service takes that order, delivers it to your house. If we talk about hemp products below 0.3% THC, those products can be verified online through a traditional e-com purchase and then 3PL drop shipped to your house. So from a cannabis brand, and we work with cannabis brands like Wafers in LA that have cannabis products and now are about to launch hemp products as well, they're not going to be able to cross state lines with their cannabis products to be compliant and safe in a good way, but they can now start 3PL shipping their hemp products across all 50, actually within the intercontinental United States. We don't send things to Alaska or Hawaii because we're still trying to figure out, we don't want things to get grabbed when they cross the border, but ultimately we're trying to create great activations and solutions for folks that are trying to sell within the intercontinental United States.
Very cool, man. So the experience of that sounds really just like it's building on what we have today. So if I want to buy cannabis, I go online, I go to the company's website, and I have a menu, and the menu has high resolution pictures. Hopefully, for the most part, it's got some information on it. Essentially what you're doing, or what you can do, is take that experience and kind of make it a little bit more experiential, where at least in today's time, I log onto my computer, I have my little avatar, I move him into the store, and I'm actually looking in the company's dispensary or a branded store. For example, if this is a brand in California, like call my friends True Classic OG, where they have great branding, great imagery, but they don't have a True Classic store. They're in other people's stores where they can have their own quote unquote dispensary in the metaverse, or at least here, where my avatar can go walk in and I can look at their products and kind of maybe even chat with a bud tender and get some help. So this way I'm not doing everything on my own, or I don't have to pull up Leafly on the side and continue to Google the strains and the information on them and everything like that. It's actually more of the experience of going into the store. I would go ahead, I would purchase it, I'd get that NFT in the metaverse. And then, say if I lived in California, one of the delivery services would then deliver it to my house within some kind of time frame. At the end of the year, when the Apple glasses come out, I put those bad boys on. I go into the cannabis metaverse and I just see dispensary upon dispensary. I can go, I can walk around, I can look at product, talk to bud tenders, get the advice. I see that being really freaking cool, especially even for tourists that are going out there if they have goggles. Because one of the things I always do wherever I land, if I'm going to buy cannabis, is pull up a bunch of dispensaries that are within a certain distance. And I look at all of them and I look at everything that they have. And to be honest, like, I hate even admitting this because it's a lot of time and effort to Google the strains and have Leafly up and like figure out exactly what I want. And, not everybody does that like me, but you can make that experience more available to people if it actually is. You can essentially shop before you actually go to the place and shop, or even just have it delivered to you depending on the regulations.
That was a mouthful. Yes. However, I don't think that metaverse 3D video game experiences are going to replace the culture of going into a dispensary. It's just not. People like to go in, they like to talk to other folks, talk about genetics, talk about different SKUs, talk about what device they like to smoke from or what type of blunts. So we're not going to replace that. We're going to amplify that. So we're going to give brands an environment that they can totally curate an online experience to decide if I want to get something and try it delivered through the mail or delivered through delivery, or I now want to go to the store and check it out because I like the 3D version. So what we're doing is amplifying what's already happening for these brands under Web 2. And Web 2 is going to be their social media links, their website, their direct email campaigns, any type of content that they're doing out there. We're going to give them a 3D experience for them to try in the metaverse, and not only talk to the people that are their regular consumers and hopefully create a rewards program for them for Web3 followers of the brand, but also give that brand awareness, the ability to stream out into other people that have come in and age verified. So now you're going to be seeing people in new states and in countries checking out what makes that brand special.
Well, I agree with you in that sense, because I think for someone like me, and the reason I think about it when I go to, like, LA or one of the real rec markets, like, I can pretty much find what I want relatively close, and I'm going to go there and I'm going to experience it. And especially if I'm somewhere I've never been before, where I live back home, my favorite dispensaries are nowhere. I live in Delray Beach, right? I like going to the Flowery. I like their product. I like Jungle Boys. They're in Deerfield, which is the closest one to me. Gold Leaf over in Tampa, right? And then the ones I have by my house are True Leaf, Surterra, Columbia Care, and Liberty. So, and Cure Leaf now. So, like, I don't get me wrong, I don't mind those companies. I just not where I prefer to shop. So the experience of, I don't know, to me it sounds weird to call the Flowery dispensary and try to have a conversation with them about the strains, but if there was a virtual experience where I can log in and experience that virtually and have that experience with the bud tender, does it replace the one-on-one conversation? Maybe not the one-on-one conversation that I have in a new market, but in the market that I live in and I know like the back of my hand, I think the virtual experience would be on par with what I'd want to do.
Well, you're a subject matter expert in the industry, so you have different tastes. So what we do is we bribe people. So we bribe people by giving them NFTs. We say, listen, we want you to come in and try our cannabis compliance, game. So you come in, you go to one room and learn from ACS Laboratory how to read a COA, what flavonoids, terpenes are. We have a DNA company in there that explains to you how your body as a cannabinoid system is different from each other's, and how you need to understand what combinations of products are going to interact with your body well, or what types of SKUs versus others. Then we take you upstairs and you go through the 5 rooms of indoor cultivation to see how cannabis is grown from a clone or from a seed. Then we go through the extraction area and you see the 4 different types of extraction. And then you finish with the edible infusion room to see how finished goods are made and put together. And then when you do that, it unlocks your ability to get a free NFT wearable. So we understand the compliance and the scalability and how we think this industry is safe, but we want to teach people in new and emerging markets that are just getting to the idea like, hey, cannabis is made by Mother Nature and it's okay for us, and maybe there's a safe way for this to grow so we don't have to feel so nervous or taboo like it's something that's bad or illegal. So we educate and we give them prizes for being educated, and then you go to the 3rd and 4th floor, which is the community where we can stream podcasts and we can have other types of brand activation, and we do brand takeovers, so you can have an entire room with branded content from a specific brand to understand not only the physical SKUs, but also the lifestyle that emulates around about buying and spending time with these brands.
See, that's why you're smarter than me, because I'm just thinking about how I would use it and caring about myself. And you're thinking about everybody else who consumes cannabis around the country and all the future consumers. And I love the idea to educate people because I think that's important. And, you would know better than me. I imagine kind of gamifying a little bit are going to get people a little bit more interested in learning about the plant. I can tell you people that I've taken on physical not dispensary tours, actual cultivation tours and facility tours. I've taken friends down to the facilities in Homestead. They absolutely love it. They love to learn about it. It's so interesting to them, but that's very unrealistic for me. I don't want to drive down to Homestead and take a bunch of people all the time. And otherwise, if I wasn't the one to drag them down there, they would never go. But if there was a virtual experience, it might be something they'd be more open to.
Now we're talking. But here's the challenge. Getting people into an online video game is challenging because it's scary, because it's new. So somebody that worked from home during COVID, they consider themselves tech savvy. Now we need to teach them how to sign a release go in and create an avatar and then run through a 3D video game, that can be a scary experience. So when we're talking to a Web 2 audience, we're going to give them training videos and let them watch YouTube of what to expect before they drop in so they don't have a bad experience. And that's something that's really the challenge is this younger generation of kids that are 13 to say 28, 29 are really, there's a billion gamer profiles worldwide and over 400 million online gamers signing in every month. So there's a huge global audience there, but we want to make it easy for Web 2 folks to turn into a Web 3 person and not be uncomfortable. So we need to train and educate and give them training videos, or this isn't going to work.
You're talking to someone right now that when my wife asked me, I know we have to get through Mother's Day first, but when she asked me what I want for Father's Day, it's like 4 or 5 hours to go play Red Dead Redemption again. It's been a while.
There you go.
So, you know, what do you think is the keeping more people back as far as experience with this? Because, like, I'll be honest, like, as advanced as the latest Oculuses are, like, it's still a big, relatively heavy helmet type thing that you're wearing on your face. And don't get me wrong, it's comfortable and there's like that transparent mode, but you feel like you're in something, not wearing something, if that makes sense. Like, I still feel like I've been put into.
Have you seen the Apple VR yet?
I haven't. I've been meaning to ask you. I wish I was one of those shows that had a looker upper person that can pull it for me.
They look like Oakleys for Marty McFly in Back to the Future too.
Oh, that's so cool. That's not
so they're available. They look super cool. And I actually have a guy at Chameleon Collective who he does 40 hours a week running his business using the goggles. And he does so because he has kind of like the Minority Report, his whole operating system in front of him. So he puts on the goggles and he has something that can I don't know if he wears gloves, but he can run his OS, his Google Suite, everything through there. So people are going to be doing this. And he also has a filter so he can see his operating screen, but still see his children around him when he's home during like COVID. You know, that's how he figured this out. So there's going to be a very large adoption of folks that can now run their operating systems without looking at screens, but wearing the goggles. And that's going to be super exciting, but it's going to be scary. So we need to be aware that these are new concepts and let people react and try to listen to their questions and the things that are the hardest part, and then help give them comfort and train them of how to get through that so that they can get to the point where they like it.
It looks like the mouse literally just like strapped to your face.
Right? Doesn't that look less intrusive? Like, I think people will be wearing these things in public.
It does. But I'll be honest, I think you'll get, when you get this, when it turns out like this, that's when you'll have mass adoption. I think. I don't know. I could be wrong.
And I think that is something that's on the horizon. In fact, when I was 16, I went into Boston First Night with Dave Carney, my best friend, and we were throwing snowballs at people kissing at midnight. And while we were walking back to the train station, this little guy came up to us and said, "Hello, can I take your picture?" And we said, "Sure." He goes, "Okay, you are number 799, click." And he looked at me and goes, "You are 798, click." And he said, "Go to my site at AOL." And it was a kid at MIT who made glasses that had a camera in the middle. And that was one of the early prototypes for what we're now looking at, right? So that was back in 1993. So now we're here, and this thing is going to be mass adopted and out there. And the Pentium processors in these new Apple glasses are stronger than the ones in the laptops, because they're anticipating consumers are going to spend more time with the glasses on than they are in front of their laptops, which is mind-boggling. It blows my mind. I'm shocked, but I need to be open to it, and I need to be prepared for it, and I want to be able to react to it and give people and give brands a good way to get their products into the metaverse where everyone's going to be going. And then what really I want to do is for the folks that work with our company, all the products that they see through Automatic Slims in the metaverse, they're going to know we've pre-vetted them and tracked them through the supply chain, so you're not going to get bootleg products. In the real world, there's between 1.5 and $4 trillion a year in fake products sold through supply chain with fake paperwork. So that's something that we're trying to address, and we market those tests of authenticating products in supply chain by creating these little fun events in Decentraland and minting our products using Avalanche blockchain, which we're super excited about that partnership, and letting people say you can buy glasses, you can buy sneakers, socks, shoelaces, hoodies, music, cannabis products, hemp products through our marketplace, and we've already pre-vetted them, so there's no fake products in front of you. So you get something in the mail that matches what you bought digitally they're the same thing. They're no knockoffs.
So let's expand on that a little bit, because that's super interesting, because that's something I'm dealing with right now that I think would be really cool just for dumb people like me is, with such a big secondary market coming up with all these hype products and everything, that these limited release drops, whether it's cannabis related, cannabis adjacent, fashion, sneakers, what have you. You have these massive secondary markets, and that's where a lot of the fakes are being pumped into right now. I mean, StockX pulled their verified by StockX or whatever, a guaranteed
Good.
authentic is just StockX verified, right? So this way, if it's not authentic, you can't sue them if it just happens to be a really good fake. So now when you go ahead and you're verifying these things along the blockchain, is that something that now becomes like in art collecting, like a provenance, where that digital token follows that real life item throughout its life cycle? So I buy a pair of sneakers and I end up flipping them to you, where you now have possession of that NFT that verifies the authenticity that originally came from Nike or wherever else it was.
Yeah, so that's the other company that we operate called Blockticity, and we authenticate products and their certificate of analysis, which can be different for each type of a product from each manufacturer using blockchain. So when you get a product, the big challenge is, so it's another cannabis analogy, right? Cannabis on above 0.3% has physical track and trace. So when somebody plays with a COA or on a cannabis product, it's really easy to catch them because you're going to see where it came from. It had to come from this manufacturer, it had to come from this grower, or it had to come from this distributor. When you talk about hemp, there is no physical track and trace, and you can cross state lines. So somebody thinks they're buying a kilo of raw material oil to put into 1 kilo for 1,000 pens from someone they think is in Colorado, when in fact it was shopped through 6 brokers and started in Florida. So in transit from Florida to Colorado over, say, 6 months, no protection from light, no protection to temperature, and no protection to exposure. So that product has been now active, and now maybe it's above 0.3% THC. So that's the challenge. Is not only do we want to track products for apparel through the supply chain, but how are we going to put something on there that isn't going to be moved? So what eBay did for sneaker authentication is they put a little key fob on each one. And I've seen kids at the airport wearing their eBay authenticated key fob, to show that they have real sneakers on, because that's how much real sneakers mean to sneaker collectors, right? So there are now embeddable technologies that we're working with. One's called Blocktime. And so they have a watermark that they can put in apparel, they can put in high-end jewelry, they can basically embed in anything. And then you can scan your phone QR code onto the area where that watermark is. And then that watermark COA will be minted by Blockticity in the blockchain and searchable on our private subnet in Avalanche. So people can authenticate this product is connected to this third-party certificate of analysis on a private subnet, so it can't be modified. And then if you see a COA that's connected to a QR code and you scroll to the bottom of that COA and you see it was minted by some company in China that you don't recognize, then there's your fake.
Dude, see, this to me is a game changer, right? And I can tell you, of course, bringing it back to me, and that's always what I'm good at, is worrying about myself. Is for my wedding, my wife and I's wedding, we were gifted a very nice painting by somebody as a present, and I know it was a very expensive painting, and I wanted to sell it because it was not a good looking painting. It didn't fit with anything. It was very old timey, right? And I couldn't sell it because we didn't have the freaking provenance with it, and it was something weird, like to go back and ask the person for. So I had to pay to get it authenticated. I had to pay some guy I ran into, knew another guy who knew another guy who knew the artist's great grandson who would authenticate it, and I had to pay a bunch of money. And it's ridiculous, all this just to sell it. Like, half of me, I'm like, what's it worth? Okay, it's worth that. I'll take half. I don't care. I don't want to have to chase this down. And at the end of the day, I'll probably end up with just half. But if there was some kind of digital authentication, like if there is, I know it's dumb, but some kind of QR code or anything else, like you've talked about, these things that are in the real world that I could have used to, like, hey, he gave me this painting, you just use whatever this is, and boom, you can authenticate it digitally. That would have been so much easier. I think, for companies like Christie's and other auction houses, it would be a game changer. And it's funny, I never understood why the cannabis industry would need this. And I remember seeing, like, I think it was Doja Pack talking about being to make sure that you have authentic products, until I learned what the black market was doing. And all the black market was doing was taking the brands that exist and just going off of their marketing and saying, hey, I have this, I have that, I have that. And all it is the packaging, or even bootleg packaging, which is fucking crazy to me.
I was contacted by the Department of Justice a year ago because they got a shipping container from China hitting Central Florida with fake COAs from ACS Laboratory on there. And so we had to authenticate and show these are fake and these are what. Here are the 7 metadata points. Here are the points that they falsified. And if you look, they took one photocopied fake COA and put them on like 50 products in the shipping container. So that really matters. You are 100% right. There are bad players in the space that are doing things offshore in unregulated markets and then dumping it in and putting the logos that we all know and love on those products and trying to sell them in secondary market, and that's dangerous. So for Sotheby's and other companies like that, what we do is our model is we charge. So like your painting, without telling me, was it over $500 the value of the painting? Don't tell me the price. I don't want to offend the people. Okay.
If it was under $500, it'd probably still be in the closet collecting dust with the amount of effort it's taken me to try to sell it.
So we can authenticate that painting for $1. We can mint the certificate of whoever is the third party that tells you that they attest that that is a real painting. We can mint that in blockchain for $1. And that's what we're trying to do. So we're trying to, and we came up with a very low price because we don't want people to, like, free, they won't believe us. They're like, you're crazy, you're robbing something. So $1 per page that we mint and authenticate third party with metadata, with QR codes on our private subnet and Avalanche. So we can do this for any product in any supply chain, and for everybody that's in Web3 that really wants to work with fun bougie brands and work with baseball cards and work with sneakers, there's just a million companies doing that. So we like to do the boring stuff. So we're talking, I'm the sub chair committee, I'm the sub chair for D3705 with ASTM. I wrote the worldwide standard for cybersecurity for cannabis, transportation for cannabis, and I'm writing how to verify a COA using blockchain. And they want to introduce us and ASTM to other industries that have major fake products put out with fake paperwork. Furniture industry, lighting industry, organic food industry. There's just all these great opportunities where we can help them say, hey, how much money did you lose last year with fake products? 20 million? Well, for $1 a COA, you might have whatever that percentage is, it's less than the 20, and we can authenticate and third-party track it for you through the supply chain to the end user or through the distributors B2B. So that's something that we are excited about. But obviously, we came and learned about this pain point for the whole world in the cannabis industry. So we want to support the cannabis industry as one of our preferred industries. But we're still looking to do this, globally in a bunch of other areas.
That's really cool, man. So to bring it back to cannabis, you're really offering a suite of services in the metaverse across the entire chain, where it's authentication, making sure that the products are legitimate, running the COAs along the blockchain, as well as the experiential thing and tying that in together. And the whole point of the metaverse experiential thing is to actually get tangible products in the real world as well, too.
And have a safe place for brands to be able to do an activation with fans and followers of that brand without violating any of their state regulations, that they're promoting any cannabis related content to underage users.
Dude, that's absolutely awesome, man. I love seeing what you're doing all the time. It's always so much bigger than cannabis, but the love that you show to the cannabis industry is great. If people want to work with you, where can they find you?
They can call you because you're my friend, or they can check us out on Instagram, Automatic Slims 1, Twitter, Automatic Slims 1, or hit our link tree, and you can see our links to go into Decentraland. And in Decentraland, we're at parcel -70 / -118.
Are we bringing back the plaid skirts in any fashion?
No way, dude. We'll get canceled. No way. No, we're no, we brought, and so also we had we used to have Bob's Big Boy at the front door, which we had the mold, and people would come in to stand in line to take a picture of Bob's Big Boy, but we're not associated with Bob's Big Boy as a brand. So we made a new door greeter in the metaverse, which is Patio Furniture, which is an NPC character robot that we have as an avatar now, and we're working with. The Patio Furniture his name is for my grandmother who passed away last year, and I had a foul mouth as a little kid, as an Irish kid, and the only joke I was allowed to say to my grandmother was, "Hey, grandmother, what's Irish and stays out all night?"
What?
Patio Furniture.
Ah.
And so Patio is our character at the front door, and people love Patio. He's like a 50 style robot, and he's your NPC guide. So if you go into Slims and you get lost, he's your personal assistant to answer questions and give you tips and tricks to go out and do whatever activation you're trying to do. And also, one plug I want to say, I'm super excited because we are doing a deal with Slip Inside Records. So we're going to have the Slip Inside Record store in Automatic Slims. And we're doing an event with Game Over, which is Anthony Pisano used to be a DJ at Slim's when he was a little kid in college, and now he has this awesome agency in LA. And they are going to be doing activations and gaming with. They have about 50 Twitch influencers they manage for all their promos and content. So we're looking at ways to collaborate in gaming, in music, entertainment. Obviously, we have a soft spot for anything cannabis related, and also the NFT community. We're doing some cool activations. So it's a lot of fun, but it's something that we have to make people comfortable. So if anybody does want to learn more about it, we'll create a Web3 strategy with you and your marketing team to see if this makes sense. We don't charge any upfront fees. We just want to work with dope brands and cool people.
Very cool, man. Mike, it's always a pleasure catching up with you. We should definitely do this again sometime. Do it in the metaverse. We'll figure out some cool shit to do.
We'll do it in the real world and stream into the metaverse. Let's do that for our next one.
Even better, man. It's great talking to you. Thank you to everybody at home. Thanks for watching. Of course, if you missed this, if it's any part of this interview and you like to watch it, you can check it out on youtube.com/elevateyourgrind. For anything C-Lab related, go to joinclab.com. We'll probably starting getting these to you at least once a week, if not more. So